Let's just do that. And for those just joining, welcome. We'll get started here in a minute. We are recording this just for folks legislators that weren't able to join us. We are going to be able to send out the recording to them so they can hear what we talked about today. So that's our reason for recording it. We'll give it just one more minute. I see a couple people still in the waiting room. Okay, well, I think we'll go ahead and get started because I know we just have a short amount of time with people today. Normally, I would start off this meeting saying Happy New Year, but given hearing about the tragedy today that happened in Perry, that just doesn't feel quite right to say Happy New Year right now. So do know that at the DD Council, our thoughts are with the community of Perry as they cope with this tragedy that they're dealing with this morning. With that solemn note, I do want to welcome you all to our 2024 virtual open house to hear a little bit about our public policy agenda. I'm Brooke Lovelace. I'm the Executive Director of the DD Council. I do want to thank very much all of our legislators that were able to join us today. We know that your time is just very valuable and your schedule is already filling up real fast with session just starting next week. I can't believe that it's next week already. But the DD Council here really does appreciate your willingness to work together to make some positive changes for Iowans with disabilities this session. And I do also want to thank our council members and advocates that are here with us today to share their stories. I think now we're gonna turn it over to Brady Werger, but he'll be telling his story a little bit later. So I think we'll just go over briefly what we're here to talk about today. So our agenda is to do a welcome and introduction of speakers, which Carlin's gonna do. Then we're going to go into the public policy agenda. We're going to share personal stories from advocates with lived experiences. And the most importantly is we're going to have some time for legislators to give some of their comments. And then if we have any time left at the end of the day, we'll do some questions and discussion. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Carlin.
Hello, everyone, and thank you again, as Brooke said, for joining us today. We're excited to be able to tell you about our legislative agenda and get some comments back from you all and maybe give us some advice on how to get some of our ideas and our proposals moving forward. And we look forward to that discussion. And with that kind of theme in mind, I'll just note that our agenda, which is the cover of our agenda, which is on your screen, we're focusing on working together to create an Iowa where people with disabilities learn, work, and thrive. And those three topic areas is part of our theme for this year. And we want to bring particular attention to how we're looking at education, employment, and community living for people with disabilities, and also how accessible voting affects people with disabilities. So those are our topical themes. I wanted to let you know that the way that we pull our agenda together is by talking with all of you. Everybody that's on this call has probably been part of a conversation, or we have heard from you about what's important to Iowans with disabilities and what possibilities there might be for improving their lives, whether it be through education, employment, their living, healthcare, a variety of approaches. And we talk to all of you, we talk to our advocates, we get stories from people around the state about what's happening in their lives, the good, the bad, the ugly, the challenges, things that could be improved. We take that all in, listen to the disability community. We put out a survey every year. We talk to people at our annual conference, which is held in August, September timeframe. And we listen there to what they're telling us. We also are involved in many of Iowa's other councils, commissions, boards. We listen in to their discussions and what they're working on, partner organizations, community providers, the departments of Health and Human Services, We work with voc rehab and workforce development, the Department of Education, and our partner organizations, which are Disability Rights Iowa and also the University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, who you'll hear from someone from there later in our agenda. So we also bring help groups come to the Capitol and bring their messages to the Capitol. So we listen to their messages also to pull it all together. And we listen to legislators, and we want to hear what the possibilities are, and again, how we can work together to move our agenda forward. So moving on, we want to, again, talk about our top themes for the year. So they kind of fall under these big category areas where Iowans with disabilities learn, work, thrive, and vote. And if you want to move on, Emily, we can kind of quickly go through what those goal areas are. And then after I get done talking here with my long-winded, long text slides, we're going to move on to some of our council members who will talk through a couple of these policy areas, and also our advocates who will tell their personal stories. So just overall, our goals in the area of learning and education is for all students with disabilities of all ages to receive a quality education with the supports that they need to learn and thrive. In the area of employment and work, we want to see all Iowans with disabilities who are employed and working toward financial independence. In the area of thriving through community living, we want Iowans with disabilities to be able to live independently in their community by getting, again, the supports that they may need to be able to do that. And in the area of voting, which the DD Council has been very focused on, the rights of individuals with disabilities to be able to have access to voting and get to their polling places, or however they may be able to vote. We want to make sure that we're affirming their rights and ensuring their access to participation. So with that, I'm going to move on to, we're going to kind of focus on the top two areas of education and employment, but we will talk about all of these areas briefly. But we have our council members and members of our public policy committee with us today to give overviews of these topical areas. And we're going to start with learning and education. And I'm going to turn it over to Emma Boza, who's from Haywarden. She's on our council. She's a teacher. She's the mother of Ruby, who has inspired Emma to do lots of things. But in case you're from Northwest Iowa, and especially from Sioux County, you may have heard of Ruby's Red Bags, which Emma and Ruby put together. They're actually red bags that are full of sensory-friendly materials that they got a grant to put together these bags and provide them to first responders in the county, who are able to then use them as they respond to people who need those sensory-friendly materials and devices when an emergency may be happening. So Emma's somewhat of a super advocate that way. And in 2023, during the legislative session, she approached her local legislators and some other legislators to ask that we declare March as Developmental Disabilities Month. And she's really the one that got that started and helped us put that together to make it all happen. So way to go, Emma. And she's also wanting to consider some ways that we can bring more disability history curriculum and education into Iowa schools. So with that, I'll let her talk about our other priorities there. Take it away, Emma.
Thanks, Carolyn. So Iowans with disabilities will learn what these are the DD Council's top 3 education agenda items. Number 1 is to ensure that students in public and non-public schools receive special education programs and services equitably. The second one is support and invest in comprehensive transition and post-secondary programs. The third is support in-school programs and trainings for educators on health conditions and disabilities. And while these are the official agenda items, overall, we want to be able to ensure that students are receiving the services they need. And this in turn means funding needs to be kept at current levels with what we were hearing with possible AEA funding. But it would be very difficult to maintain these much needed services.
Thanks, Emma. And we have with us today Wendy Anderson, who's going to share her personal story. And Wendy is actually featured in our public policy agenda document, so you'll be able to read her full story there. But Wendy is from Trainer, Iowa, which is near Council Bluffs. And she's the mother of Dexter, who you see pictured here. And she's the founder of Dexter's Dream Foundation, which is an organization that provides opportunities for families who are impacted by disabilities, unique needs, special needs. So she's another one of those super advocates that actually we have been connected to through the Iowa Autism Council, where she is the co-chair. And she's also a member of the Iowa Special Education Advisory Panel. And she's on Disability Rights Iowa Board. So she's a busy girl. And we thank you, Wendy, for joining us today to talk about your story and Dexter's story.
So thank you, Carlin. And I first just wanted to thank all of you at the DD Council and everyone who is here for all the work that you're doing. It's greatly appreciated and it's seen. And so, yeah, thank you for allowing to share our story with our son. About our son Dexter. So I am from Trainer, Iowa. We have 3 children, 2 of whom have disabilities. And today we're here to talk about the journey with our son Dexter. He's now 14 and would be a freshman in high school. And so to condense 14 years down of education challenges into a few minutes, I'm going to try my best here. But so at 6 months old, he was diagnosed with tuberous sclerosis complex, which is a rare genetic disorder where you can have tumors anywhere in your body. He has them in his brain and his heart, which also causes epilepsy. A few years later, he was diagnosed with a SEGA, which is a fast-growing brain tumor. And so to this day, still, he's on a daily chemotherapy drug, so he is immune compromised. And then at 5, he was diagnosed with autism and other physical and developmental delays. So getting the education and the services that he needs and he's entitled to has been nothing less than a fight and a battle. And I don't use those words very often or very lightly, but unfortunately that's what it is. The schools that I'm talking about today have great reputations for high quality education. It just doesn't work the same way when you have a child in special education and needs these services. So just kind of a brief part of our journey. Before kindergarten, we met with our local school district multiple times to get him the services that he needed. And eventually they decided that they were going to transport him to another school that was 40 minutes away. And so we decided to look at a different option, and we ended up enrolling into a bigger school district where my in-laws were actually teachers. So we thought, you know, they know us. And so maybe it would be easier for us to get the services, but yeah, it was still challenging to get what he needs. Every year, the school year starts with us giving a presentation to the teachers, paras, nurses, administration, everyone we can about his condition of tuberous sclerosis, how he presents autism, how he's impacted, and most importantly, the seizures, because the staff just don't have the training. And his seizures can escalate very quickly when he gets sick. And so we are grateful that it allows us to educate them. At the same time, it also created some fear of him and his condition. And we are frequently called to the schools to come on check on him because they just didn't have the knowledge or the experience in dealing with this type of seizure and action plans and things. He also was not able to receive physical therapy services because he was just above what was required to qualify. He could walk unassisted. Occupational therapy was on a consultative basis, who rarely met with the teachers to give them ideas of ways to help him. And he did get speech therapy starting for a few minutes each week. And that I did say a few minutes each week. So continuing to get him therapy is a yearly battle because he was able to communicate. What he was actually doing was scripting movies, and we knew this, but he was communicating. And so each year we had to justify how he could continue to receive these services. And so that was a challenge every year. And finally, last year, we just got so much pushback that we gave in. We just weren't up for the fight any longer. And so IEP meetings are long hours. Many times we would meet multiple times a month because of the challenges that he was having. We as parents were doing everything we can. I'm a former teacher myself. I became an IEP coach for the greater knowledge. We hired IEP advocates. Therapists would attend the meetings. Yeah, everything was just so hard and challenging. And it was a constant battle to get him the services and do what was best for him. Paras are usually a revolving door. And if there's a great relationship established, they would try to decrease the para support because he was doing so well, when in reality, he was doing well because he had the para support. And so it was a fight to keep it. We would continue to ask them, if a child was able to move around to school better because they were in a wheelchair, would you take the wheelchair away now because they're doing better? And of course not. They wouldn't do that. But because schools are so short-staffed, they're looking for any reason to decrease the para support that he needed. His days were spent at school, and his evenings 4 days a week were spent at therapies and services. And so his downtime to be a kid was on the weekend, so 2 days a week. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, I remember looking at my husband and I just said, oh, thank goodness we can relax for a little bit. Because it was a weekly recurrence that we were going into the school. We had to advocate to switch teachers. It wasn't a fit. The only other option was to put him in a self-contained classroom that was well below his ability. And we had to agree to it because it was the better of the two environments. He was stressed, he was struggling. So throughout the pandemic, he's immune compromised, so we couldn't send him to school. We tried the online school and it was honestly a nightmare. We felt like we were in junior high trying to learn the curriculum and adapt it to him. And so after a short while of trying that, we called an IEP meeting and just said, like, we've got to change something. So we ended up dual enrolling with the school so that he could receive his SDI, specially designed instruction, that was in his IEP, and we homeschooled and did the core of his instruction. And we asked them, what grade level is he academically? Because everything we saw, his test scores, his grade, it was just below grade level. And so we were quite surprised when we learned he was actually 3 to 4 grades below, depending on the subject. So we went through that year homeschooling, teaching him where he's at. He got 90 minutes a week of SDI a week from the school virtually so that we could keep him safe. And at the end of that year, he had 198% increase in reading comprehension and 175% increase in math. And we had cut him up 2 grade levels. And it's really attributed to where we taught him where he was, and we didn't water down grade level material for him. So at this point, we really felt like we would be doing a disservice sending him back to school that didn't teach him where he was academically, even though he had an IEP. He would miss out on therapies because he didn't qualify anymore. He was going to be put into a self-contained classroom again, so less access to peers, very few opportunities for inclusion. So he couldn't really fully integrate into the world. And so we just kept asking the questions, why should we send him back? And we didn't get any answers. So for right now, Dexter is homebound, still continuing to receive SDIs minutes through the schools, but this year the school didn't have anyone that would work with him. So they did end up hiring a teacher from another district that works with him 3 to 4 evenings a week after she is done teaching, was the best option that they could get for him. So providing an education for him has meant many sacrifices for us as a family. My husband left his pharmacy career to stay home, provide education and care for Dexter and his siblings. I have a flexible job. But on average, we spend between $18,000 and $21,000 a year in curriculum, therapies, tutors, and support that Dexter needs to thrive. And so, a lot of it is left up to us to create these opportunities. Just kind of rounding this out, transition is supposed to start at 14. We get on all the websites, we do all of that. When he turned 14, we asked and they said, no, he's in middle school, so we wait till high school. We asked again in high school, and we got a phone call 6 months later from the voc rehab, only to learn that right there with the agreement that they had with the school is that freshmen were not able to get services because they still had seniors that they had to onboard, and there's such a decline in staff. They don't have enough staff to get it done. So we also have considered and researched transferring him to a different school, open enrolling him in a larger school district for more services and transition. We actually applied and we were denied getting him into that school because they're full due to the lack of special education teachers and paras. So the thing that's constant everywhere is the lack of staff to provide the services. Therefore, our son doesn't get services unless we figure it out, we provide it, and we pay for it. So we want him to be able to go to school with his peers, utilize the services and programming that's supposed to be available. But at the end of the day, it's not what's best for him. And that's the question that we ask all the time, is what's best for Dexter. Truly, families like mine are struggling. They are having to agree to things that aren't best for their child because there aren't any other options. There are services and programs that should be available, but they aren't, they're being hidden. And children in special education system today are not being provided the education that they need, but more importantly, that they're entitled to. Very few programs get cut for the gifted, the talented, or the athletics. However, special education continues to struggle year after year with no end in sight. And these are the ones who need it the most, and they're suffering the greatest. So I try to condense 14 years down into a few minutes. So I ran a little long, my apologies, but thank you for listening to our story. I know I'm just one of many, and that my hope through you hearing our story is that you know more and you can do more, because we have some really amazing kids that are growing up without the services that they deserve and the chances that everyone else gets.
Thank you, Wendy. I really appreciate you sharing all that. And I just want to point out that while Wendy's story is very is unique to Wendy, it's not unique for us to hear these stories that students are not receiving the services that they need and are entitled to. So we could have asked many mothers, parents to be here today to share their story. And unfortunately, there are too many. So, so again, thanks, Wendy. And I should have mentioned earlier, we'll save time for questions at the end, but if you have a question for us or for Wendy, feel free to put it in the chat too. I know there are people monitoring our chat, and we will, again, save as much time as we can at the end for questions. But we want to move on to our next topic area, which is helping Iowans with disabilities work and getting to meaningful employment. And to introduce this is Kevin Harris, who is the chair of our Public Policy Committee and on the DD Council. And Kevin is and his family are from Johnston. He is the father of Grace, who is his inspiration, I believe, for being on the council and for doing this work, and has been helping guide us in our policy initiatives this past year and for this coming year. So take it away, Kevin.
Yes, thank you. Well, Iowans with Disabilities work. Our first priority is make comprehensive integrated employment the only option for publicly funded employment services for Iowans with disabilities. Now, you might be thinking, what is comprehensive integrated employment? That sounds like some great buzzwords. If you Google it, you'll find out that it is paying a person with a disability the same rate that you would pay somebody without a disability. Today in the state of Iowa, that is legal to pay a lower wage for individuals with disabilities. And I know there are still some criteria around that, and Brooke and Carolyn can answer more questions to that than I can, but that is in effect in the state of Iowa. Second is invest in vocational rehabilitation invest in vocational rehabilitation and the Department of Blind Services to build and sustain employment and self-employment programs for people with disabilities. And the third is ensure initiatives to increase Iowa's workforce programs with targeted populations, which includes Iowans with disabilities. When I was talking with Carlin, as we were preparing the slide deck and getting things ready for the session, I wanted to kind of introduce and kind of talk through the Iowans with disabilities with work section, specifically because my daughter is 17. She'll be 18 here at the end of the month. We're going through the guardianship process here in just a couple weeks. But when she was between birth to about 1.5, I was working in a retail job for a nationwide retailer in Des Moines. And I was working there because I'd stepped out of my kind of IT analyst role. I needed a job that was going to be a little more flexible to help care for her medical needs during that time. And in that role, working odd hours and weekends and evenings, stuff like that, I oversaw a team of around 40 people. And that there's several individuals with disabilities, whether they were various developmental or a couple that I'm thinking of, and the story I'm going to share here is a couple individuals with intellectual disabilities. And, at that point, I had really no experience working with an individual with a disability or with a disability in which I knew. And so just trying to, how do I operate in this space? I had received no training. I had no knowledge. I didn't have any thing to really base my interactions off of with these individuals. You can, and something kind of Wendy mentioned just a little bit ago, you can kind of water down, you could pander to the individual, you could try to hold them up to an unrealistic expectation. But what I really thought of in my mind is, well, how, even though my daughter at the time was under a year of age, how would I want her potential future employer to interact with her? And so I really, as I looked at these individuals that were working for me, I thought of, okay, how would I want my daughter to be viewed? How would I want her to be interacted with? And how would I want her to be kind of coached through improving and succeeding in her job? So, we not only need to support our individuals with disabilities, but we also need to support employers and just the common people that are hired. I'm not talking about the corporations. I'm just talking about the individuals that are actually doing the work and helping support them and providing training opportunities so they understand better how to support individuals with disabilities. The next up is going to be, and I'm going to turn it over to Ben Gower here, who's going to talk through. And I hope I didn't butcher your last name too much there, Ben. But he's going to talk about the overview for Blueprint for Change.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kevin. It's Grauer, but you were super close.
Oh, thank you.
Too many vowels together like that. But yeah, thank you all for having me. I'm here representing the Iowa Blueprint for Change through Iowa, as you said. We're working on this project in partnership with Iowa Voc Rehab, Ripon Hamas Associates, and the UI Evaluators. And this is a substantial federally grant-funded project, which has allowed us to really focus a lot of time and energy amongst different shareholders over the next 5 years or so to really support this agenda, which Kevin just laid out and the DD Council is really trying to pursue with regard to employment. Specifically, this is called a SWISHY grant, which is obviously a sub-minimum wage to competitive integrated employment grant, which really entails just what Kevin had mentioned. We're trying to move or present people with the opportunity who might be considering sub-minimum wage in a sheltered workshop in an environment that does not allow people with disabilities to be integrated in the community and work alongside those who don't have disabilities to really then focus on pursuing opportunities that are specifically competitive and integrated in that nature, where they're working alongside their peers and then pursuing a wage that is above the minimum wage ideally, or the bare minimum, the minimum wage itself. A bit of background on some minimum wage nationally. It was initially created after World War II to kind of give soldiers an opportunity to receive vocational training and then enter the workforce. Over the years, that has switched to nearly solely individuals with disabilities that are earning these sub-minimum wages in sheltered workshops frequently, where they initially were brought in with the idea that they would be provided training and then move on to jobs in the community. But it's been found that there aren't any resources to really help them move beyond those opportunities. And so that's what we're really trying to achieve with this grant. Currently, there are 6 businesses in Iowa that hold 14C certificates, but 14 states have implemented legislation that has moved to phase that out over the years. And currently, the Department of Labor is considering eliminating the program entirely. Another consideration there is, while there are relatively few, some 14C certificate holders within the state, DAHAB is also something that is being used in a similar fashion to sort of put individuals with disabilities in a setting that is not integrated in the community as much as it should be. And so we're trying to kind of direct individuals and their families to employment opportunities in lieu of that as well. Specifically within our grants, we're hoping to utilize the systems change framework that is going to, again, or with the goal rather, to simply advance and improve systems so that Iowans with disabilities have access to competitive integrated employment that leads to economic security. It's our understanding, and hopefully everyone's here, that jobs function in many different ways, one of which is to provide economic security, but oftentimes that is an individual's connection to the community, how they're able to kind of forge relationships and just be involved in ways that are outside the house. And we're all kind of looking for that. And we're hoping to involve a lot of different stakeholders to really achieve that function over the next few years. We have sort of 4 different pockets that we're hoping to move into. And that would kind of be apprenticeships. And with that program, or that goal, we're hoping to create an apprenticeship program to train direct support professionals, using a model to recruit, train, and then keep interested Iowans with disabilities in competitive employment. We're, of course, very aware that we need to have more access to direct support professionals, and we're hoping to use that to do that. Wendy, to your point earlier, it's not kind of a blind spot for us that transition programs need to be started earlier and earlier. And so hopefully we're going to be implementing a new transition model that then engages people as early as possible, so that they're hoping to then move out and engage with the world in a way that includes employment first. Again, we also have a community of practice, which is really trying to just bring stakeholders to the table. And then finally, we have a policy section of that as well. And so that really then kind of incorporates this idea of employment first, which is a nationwide program that simply states that employment should be considered the first priority and preferred outcome of publicly funded services for people with disabilities. At this point in time, Iowa is one of 39 states without an executive order, legislation, or combination of the two. And so we think that there's potentially an opportunity to be informed more about what that might mean to have Iowa kind of move into that space and really expand our capacity for that within employment first. And then also within employment first, occasionally there's the understanding that the state can serve as a model employer. And that has been seen as an effective measure for states to improve their own workforces, specifically by making it or by removing barriers to work for people with disabilities. We think that there's potentially an opportunity to learn more about that by improving organizational readiness and creating a more welcoming environment for employees with disabilities. Be proactive and targeted in our recruitment and outreach efforts. Improve the accessibility of the employment application and hiring process, and then improve access to reasonable workplace accommodations. So I want to also just close by saying that while I myself am not necessarily on the DD Council, I do have disability, and I've benefited from the different services that are offered by the providers that are in the state. But I also know that no one knows what people with disabilities want and need more than us. And so by collaborating in these sorts of ways, it's going to be a really impactful way to kind of move forward and have employment be a great consideration within our legislature and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for taking us through that explanation of this project. It's an awesome project, and you covered so many great points and a lot of things that we're grateful to hear you all are working on, and we're working on with you. But so much more that can be done too, and we're really looking forward to what kind of policy implications and changes we can work on together. So we also have one other speaker today to talk to us about employment, a success story of sorts. And it's Brady Werger, who I just realized we misspelled his name, which he's probably going to fire us now because he's the chair of our council. Sorry about that, Brady. It's my fault, actually.
It happens.
Brady,
It happens.
Brady was
You know,
actually.
it doesn't get any. Go ahead, Carlin.
Sorry, Brady. I just wanted to say that Brady was going to talk earlier on our event today, but we had one individual cancel who was going to talk about his employment. And so we scooted Brady in to talk about this, and actually it's perfect for him to talk about anyway. But that's why I misspelled his name, because I was typing quickly and we didn't get his picture in there. So I apologize, Brady, for that.
Oh, you're fine. I'm just glad you're not a telemarketer, because I'd hang up on you if you pronounce my name wrong. So,
but I wanted to say too that we had a few individuals who wanted to come tell their story today about employment successes, but guess what? They were all working. And so Brady actually took the day off so he could be with us today and tell about his employment success, and also some great conversation that we had this summer, actually fall, with his legislator about employment and about some challenges and opportunities. So Brady, go ahead, take it away. Thank you.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm Brady Werger. I'm chair for the Iowa DD Council. So happy to be able to serve in my role on the council as chair and help make change here in Iowa for people with disabilities. I do want to talk with you guys a little bit today about my experience with employment, especially being employed within the community that I live in here in Waverly. I spent 11 years almost living at the Glenwood Resource Center in Glenwood. And then in 2018 was able to move from the ICF facility into a home and community-based services home in Glenwood, where I was able to stay employed at the Glenwood Resource Center. In 2022, I believe it was, I decided that, with the closure of the Glenwood Resource Center and a lot of changes that were going to take place, I decided that it was time that I moved back closer to family, which is here in Waverly. And when I moved back to Waverly, I moved into a 24-hour staffed group home with Goodwill of Northeast Iowa. And I just love it. It's great. When I moved back, Goodwill assisted me with getting employed at the Goodwill retail store here in Waverly, where I was trained to do several different job duties as far as hanging clothes, working the donation door, sorting donations when it came in. And I worked there for some time. And then I decided, I'm capable of doing more. Why doesn't Brady advocate for what he wants? And, all of you that know me know, am I going to turn it down to advocate for myself? Well, no. And so I advocated for myself, and I was kind of following a job with the city of Waverly for leisure services, Parks and Rec. And I really wanted a job with Parks and Rec, either at the cemetery or at the Waverly Municipal Golf Course. And I went into City Hall, talked with Garrett, the leisure services director, and I said, I'd like to be employed with you guys. What accommodations can you guys make to hire me? And Garrett did just a phenomenal job. I ended up getting hired last season at the Waverly Municipal Golf Course, where I do trash, move tee markers, check bathrooms, and just really make sure the course is to the looking at to its top. And it's really it was a really great year being able to work with the city of Waverly and make those connections and make those relationships with people that serve our city. It really means a lot to me that the city is considering to employ people with disabilities. It makes the city look good because um, sometimes it's hard for people with disabilities to find jobs. So after working this whole past season at the Waverly Golf Course, kind of at the end of our season at the golf course, I was also hired at Trinity United Methodist Church here in Waverly, where getting, um, I'm working as an assistant janitorial. Um, and then kind of going back to Goodwill a little bit, I decided to leave Goodwill because I felt like I was capable of doing more work, but being able to do more work at a better pay wage, right? A lot of people that are applying for disabilities are getting jobs, but they're only getting paid $7, $8 an hour, and I think it's important that people on our state level know that some people just can't live with that, um, you know, and so I think it's important to know that employment for people with disabilities is an issue. It is very important. And I feel like um, sometimes people with disabilities are getting jobs, but, you know, why can't they be treated like just anybody else in the community that gets a job? So, um, it's hard for people with disabilities to find jobs that they want because either one, it doesn't pay well. Two, there's a transportation issue. I might not drive. How do I get to work? Um, and, or like I'm going to use your name, Mike Honick, but Mike doesn't drive because he's blind, legally blind. So it's really making sure when you have your community employment that you're making sure you have all the supports in place to help with that community position, your community job. Um, I have always had support from my provider on making sure that, if I need help with an job application, I need help with getting to work, that's provided. But not all providers are able to step up and give those services. So I just really strongly believe it's important for our disability advocates to strive and to continue to address these issues. Um, I do want to talk briefly about this past October, September, October. I was able to participate in the Bring Your Legislator to Work Day, which is an event that our DD Council has put on for a couple of years now, really striving. It really shows the striving work that people with disabilities are doing that are community employed to bring their legislators, representatives, senators into their job site to really give them a firsthand view of what the communities that people with disabilities are living in are doing to really employ people with disabilities and making sure that they have a job that they like and that they're getting treated fairly and they're getting paid what they need to get paid. I feel like that's really important. But I was able to work with the city of Waverly to get Representative Speaker of the House Pat Grassley to come to the Waverly Municipal Golf Course. And I want to just thank the city of Waverly because they worked with me and the golf course worked with me to get this event set up at my job site. They even rented me a limousine golf cart and I put flags on it and everything. And I got to drive everybody around that participated in that, and kind of show Representative Grassley where I work and what I do. And that was really just a great experience to be able to meet with him and talk to him about really how important my jobs are to me. And really, they are important to me. I don't know what I would do without the support from my parents and goodwill and friends in the community and family. I have that support, and not everybody with a disability gets that support. Um, so I just encourage people to continue to reach out. Um, it was also really nice. News Channel 7 out of Waterloo, KWWL, was able to attend that event as well, and they got a clip. So if we have some time at the end of this meeting today, um, I did send Carlin and Emily that video, and if we have time today, we'll play that at the end. But um, um, I am doing some volunteer work at Bartles Nursing Home right now, also with dining services and environmental services with housekeeping. So those are really what has been going on with my employment and really my story. But I continue to work hard and um, serve the people. Um, with the city of Waverly at the golf course, and then at the church where I'm also a worship leader. So um, I do plan on going back to the golf course at Waverly next year for the new season. I was able to obtain to get back my driver's permits. So that's going to offer more opportunities for me next year with the city of Waverly, being able to operate equipment and maybe learn some new skills next year that I didn't get to um, do last year. So last year it was really fun because I got to drive a little gator around all day at my job, and you know, getting paid $13.50 an hour to drive a gator around, I'm not complaining. So it's been a lot of fun. My coworkers, my supervisors are just great people, and it's good to know and share with everybody that it's good to have a job where you work with people that truly care about you and truly support you. I wish more communities, the city and stuff, would employ more people with disabilities, because I think it just shows the community how like they're willing to work with people with disabilities. They're not shutting them out, and I think that's very important. So, I that's all really I have. If anybody has any questions, I do want to thank my senator Sandy Salmon for attending today. Um, Sandy, you have been, a voice for me, and I really appreciate you being there and being a voice and listening to the concerns and areas since you do cover my area. Um, and fortunately, Representative Grassley could not be here today for this meeting, but I have been in contact with him, and he is aware of the issues with the waiting list and some of the other topics that I have talked to you about in the past. And so he is aware of those as well. And so I feel like I have 100% support from you and him on these issues, and um, you guys are willing to consider talking about these issues. So I just appreciate the work that you and Representative Grassley have showed to me since I've been able to move back to Waverly and be in the Waverly community.
Brady, thank you for your comments. And I just wanted to share too that we had a great conversation with Speaker Grassley that day on the golf course. Brady shared his concerns and his hopes and dreams and what he loves about his job and challenges too. And Speaker Grassley said that he was going to take his ideas back to his caucus and back to his staff to talk about it. So just if you happen to be in Speaker Grassley's caucus, just remind him of that. And because we're sure that Brady is going to be reminding him of that too. And we do have some time set up to talk to him. about those opportunities and challenges too. So thanks so much, Brady, for sharing that and for all you do. And
Yeah,
we can,
thank you.
again, take some more questions and comments at the end of the call, which we're getting close. So I want to move quickly through the next 2 slides and get comments. So in this area of community living and thriving in the community are many topics and actually bills that you've seen and heard of before. Eliminating the waiver waiting list is always on the top of our agenda because so we can get as many people with disabilities the services they need, and wait lists are growing and time is growing on them. And we know that the department is addressing this, but it's moving still too slow. We're, asking for rate increases for home and community-based services, and especially for reimbursement rates for those direct support professionals that that support people to be able to live in their homes and to be able to live in the community and get to work. They're an important part of the disability community thriving. We also want to point out one issue that's it hasn't kind of come up recently, but it has come to the forefront because of a lack of staff and because of more people being on waiting lists. And that's that for individuals who are needing a diagnosis of an intellectual disability and trying to get that diagnosis so that they can get the services that they need. The wait list and the time that they're having to wait to get the diagnosis is too slow because there's not enough testing facilities, and the time and the length of time it takes to get that test is hampering their efforts to get the services that they need. So that's something that we're working with professional groups, and we'll be looking at ways that we can help improve that, the ability to, for those who need it to receive that diagnosis. So moving on to our last issue area is voting and making sure that we can accommodate people with disabilities who go to vote at their polling place, or if they need to vote absentee, have the opportunity to get a ballot, get it in time, get it to the back to their county auditor in time, and are able to have help at polling places and can read the ballot. These are all very sometimes simple things that we don't think about. And we're very encouraged to hear that the Secretary of State, and we work with the Secretary of State's office, wants to be as accommodating as possible and train polling workers on accommodations. And we look forward to working more with them and with legislature on how we can make sure that voting is accessible for all. So I want to move on to the comments that any of you might have. I do want to invite 2 legislators who we asked specifically to make comments, who I know that some of these issues are near and dear to their hearts. Senator Pam Yocum and also Representative Chad Ingalls. So I didn't get a chance to look at the list here to see if they're still on, but I hope Senator Yocum, if you are still on, if you would like to start, we would love to hear your comments.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the great presentations today. And you're right, this is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. I had a daughter who had severe intellectual disabilities, and I know how much she benefited a great deal from the public school system and the area education agencies from the time she was 2.5 years old until she died a few years ago. She was able to get all kinds of services and supports in the community to help her reach her potential and what she could do. As a legislator, I have been a very strong voice to try and meet more of the needs of the disabilities community. And I feel many times that we've left them down, and that we could be doing so much more from just the stuff that you said today, from the funding that's needed to hire the paraprofessionals, additional funding for the AEAs and special education, to just eliminating the wait lists. And and to be able to fund the programs that really provide real opportunities for our citizens with disabilities. I truly learned more from my daughter than I did anyone else in my life. And I'm going to tear up a little bit because she taught me every single day that the most important thing in life is to love one another and to just see one another for what we are and who we are, and to give each other the opportunities and the freedom to be who we are. So please send us the document on the blueprint plan. I'd love to see it in more detail. And any specific recommendations for funding that you believe we need to get into the vocational rehab program, the AEAs, public schools, etc., so that we are truly meeting the needs of our kids with special needs. I always say that our leaders of tomorrow are sitting in our classrooms today. So thank you so much for all that you do. And I sincerely appreciate all of you who are on the DD Council. And to the parents, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to myself or to any other legislator, because I truly do want to try and do more to help and to make this a much better state for people with a disability. So thank you and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Senator Yoakum. Thank you for all that you do. And thanks for your comments. I look forward to working with you. And Representative Ingalls, I hope you're still there and willing to make comment.
Yes, I'm still here. I've appreciated the presentations from everybody during this hour we've been together. Couple things I just wanted to point out, and it was mentioned early in the presentation about continuing to support or increasing funding for comprehensive transition programs. There is a bill that is alive yet. It's in the Senate, so I need some help to advocate over in that chamber to move it along. We passed it out of the House unanimously, and that's something I'm going to be working on this session. I hope we can make some movement on that and improve some opportunities for our little older students. This would be people that have graduated from high school and into college programs and looking at different opportunities. They've been very successful programs at the University of Iowa and at Northwestern College. And so if we could work on that, that'd be awesome. I wanted to just make a quick comment about rumors on AEA overhauls, changes. At least from my perspective as the representative in our caucus in the House, we have not seen any proposal. This is all conjecture. We will take very seriously any changes to the AAs. They are a vital part of our educational program in Iowa, not just for public school students, but also for private school students that have qualified for those services. I actually had two children who have utilized and continue to utilize AEA services, and it has made a world of difference. Their services started essentially at birth and went all the way through their schooling at elementary and secondary levels. So I'm a very big advocate for that, and will certainly advocate for AEAs, and appreciate already many emails that we've received telling family stories. And I think you all need to continue to send those to your local legislators and really explain what AEAs do. And then kind of closing, I'm really excited to hear more about the Blueprint for Change project. I did a quick look at the website, and there's some things going on there, and hope this is a successful project, and looking forward to hearing a lot more about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Ingalls, and look forward to working with you this session also, and helping you move those bills that you're working on forward. So we are at time, but if you would like to make comment or stay on, please stay on. For those of you who can, if you need to sign off, we will bid you adieu and look forward to working with those of you who are on the call. but want to make sure we invite any other people who have questions or comments to do that now. If you can come off mute or you can raise your hand, whatever you're comfortable with. Senator Taylor.
Yes,
for
thank you,
joining
Carlin.
us.
I just wanted to say very quickly, thank you everybody who spoke, who shared your personal stories, gave some background on what the council's been up to recently. I want to thank Emma for I probably received an email invite anyway, but Emma, thank you for the holiday card that you sent me, reminding me about this particular get together today. I tucked that away and added it to my calendar, so I made sure that I was able to join you today. Emma lives in Haywarden, which isn't far from where I live in Sioux Center. And so I enjoyed meeting her in person during this last legislative session when we had an event over there. Wendy, also thank you for the story having to do with your child, and you know, I'm sorry that you get to the point, but I understand you get to the point where you just you're tired of fighting, and at a certain point you as you said, put it, you give up, right? That's not the way it ought to be, but I understand that that's the way it is sometimes. Also with Representative Ingalls referring to the degree program, hoping for some expansion for that beyond Northwestern College and University of Iowa. That's a bill that, as he pointed out, it is on the Senate side. I was running that bill on the Senate side, I think for the past 2 years, maybe. I know this past session, there was a subcommittee held for it. I was advocating, and I will continue to advocate for that bill. I mean, to me, that's a great opportunity for higher education experience for all Iowans, even those that may have somewhat different abilities. And so I know it's going to take some funding, which was, I think, the sticking point this past session, but that's something that I'm interested in pursuing. And the last thing I mentioned with the AEAs, I'm not against the legislature or the governor taking a look at the structure of any of that organization. I think all organizations over time, need to be monitored. We make sure that there's efficiencies, there's not, too much administrative bloat and things like that, which is what we're told is the motivation behind this. But I want to make sure that the essential services that are being provided are not targeted as a result of that review. Just had a conversation with a local public school superintendent yesterday or 2 days ago. And I asked him about AEAs and what kinds of services they provide, how important he sees them from his point of view, and it was very instructive hearing what he had to say. And I know my own experiences in the local district here in Sioux Center. When we had an issue with my son back when he was in kindergarten, the AEA representatives were very helpful. Provided an IQ test, came in and did classroom observation. And so, that's a very limited experience for us. It was just a one-time thing. But my wife and I were very appreciative of what they did. And so I just want, folks to know that Republicans aren't universally, skeptical, suspicious, looking for some kind of draconian solutions to a supposed problem. A lot of us want to have some kind of a measured approach. And in my role on the education committee, that's going to be the approach I take. So anyway, that's all I'll say, but thank you for letting me participate.
Thank you, Senator Taylor, and we look forward to working with you this session too. I'll turn it over to Senator Salmon. Thank you for joining us also.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't want to repeat everything Senator Taylor said. He covered everything really well. I appreciate hearing the stories from Wendy and Brady about their experiences. It's very helpful to hear from people that have to deal with government agencies and how their experience is. I will say I have been advocating for the funding for some of this you guys mentioned today. But it's going to take more than me, I can tell you that. So all of you all need to advocate as well to encourage us to be able to put more funds. What I've seen from direct support people and so forth, that they often get hired away into a job for better wages than they're getting. And so that's one of the factors contributing to a shortage of direct care people. And we do need to have those. And I too have heard from Kelly Garcia, the DHS director, that they are working on the waiting lists, but more needs to be done there. So all I can say is I will continue to advocate and do what I can to direct resources into our disability community. And I appreciate Brady making me aware of everything. He's very good about keeping up with me. So thank you.
Thank you,
Senator
Senator Salmon.
Yes, thank you, Senator Salmon. Thank you for being here today, and we all look forward to working with you, and you can be sure you're going to be hearing more from Brady. Glad he keeps you updated. So anybody else who would like to make comment or have questions? Thank you for seeing a lot of things in the chat, so make sure you check there. But anybody else? Okay, well, I wish all of you who are legislators or legislative staff have a great session. We look forward to seeing you, many of you, at the Capitol. Please feel free to reach out to any of us at the DD Council if you have questions, if we can be a resource to you. That's what we're here for. And also to pass along any people who are having challenges. If we can be a resource for them, please feel free to do that also. But we look forward to working with all of you. Again, thank you for being here, and have a wonderful rest of the week. Yes.
If we could just remind, or want to also let you guys know that we will be at the Capitol for a legislative reception on January 24th, where we can actually visit with you all in person. So we'll be there from 2 to 4 in the Rotunda. So please stop by and say hi, and you'll get more information about that too. But always nice to visit with you guys in person as well too. But thanks for being here.
Yes, and at that time we'll have snacks. So all the better.
Snacks are always good.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and have a good week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, thanks, Brady. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carlin.
Thanks, you.
You're welcome.